Meet Eleonora. She was small, but tough. Let me show you how small. This is the femur. It's the longest bone in your body, and hers isn't much bigger than my hand. She was definitely under 5 feet tall. But now let me tell you about tough. Remember I said she had lots of children? Well, Eleonora gave birth at the age of 18, and 19, and 20, and 21. Then she had more children at 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And she wasn't done. She had 2 more children at the age of 31 and 32. Now, if you're counting, that's 11 children in 14 years. Every time you give birth, it's traumatic for your pelvis. And let me show you Eleonora's pelvis. It's over here. Now, this part of the pelvis, if you can come in really close, this part of the pelvis is called the pubic symphysis. And this isn't the way nature made it. It's rough, it's irregular. Every time she had a child, it chipped away a little bit of the bone, and then she regrew it. Another child regrew some more bone, and that's why it's shaped like that. Now, over here, you're going to need a different angle to see this, but this is her sacrum. Now, originally, it's angular, but you can see it's been flattened out by all those children coming down the birth canal. It's deformed. That was the effect of having 11 children. Eleanor was tough, but she died fairly young, around the age of 40. And the team is going to try to figure out exactly what killed her.
One of the clues to her death may be in her portraits. She looks healthy in this early portrait with Giovanni. Now look at one painted during her last year. See how much thinner? Look at her complexion, how pale she is. We know from the historical records that she'd been coughing and spitting up blood. It could be tuberculosis. After the deaths of his beloved wife and sons, Cosimo withdrew from public life. One of the most famous sites in Florence may be due to Cosimo's loss. He had the great architect, Vasari, design a corridor running above the streets of Florence. Now Cosimo could walk in seclusion, unseen, above the streets he once walked with Eleonora. The corridor goes right over the Ponte Vecchio, where today tourists shop for gold. But it wasn't always like that. When the corridor was built, there were butcher shops below. But Cosimo didn't like the smell, so he had them replaced with goldsmith shops.
I don't think Cosimo ever recovered from the deaths of his sons Giovanni and Garcia, and his wife Eleonora, all within a month. He must have felt incredibly guilty. He had been warned not to take the children to an area where malaria was raging. And now they were dead.
Today, the passageway holds a fabulous art collection. But originally, it was designed to isolate Cosimo from the world. Cosimo lived for another decade, eventually dying from a series of strokes. So for poor Cosimo, we don't have to examine his remains for evidence of murder. But his skull gives us the biggest shock of all. The Medici were the most powerful family in the world, and our exhumation of the family crypt has just revealed another secret. I want to show you something unique about Cosimo's skull.
Look inside. You can see the skull is in 2 parts. Let me try to take it out. There. Now, this is an early attempt at embalming. They were trying to mummify Cosimo. You can see it's pretty crude. They hacked away here, didn't work, tried another one here. Finally, they got the top of the skull out. They were removing the brain. They knew that to preserve the body, you had to get rid of the moist brain or bacteria would act on it. But these guys weren't as skilled as the ancient Egyptian embalmers, and all we're left with is a box of bones.
It's been an amazing day. 2 Medici, Eleonora and Cosimo, for the price of 1, and everyone's happy, especially Gino's angels. Our anthropologists have 412 bones to work with, and the bones can tell us quite a bit about Cosimo. Shoulder blades, asymmetrical, right considerably larger. Cosimo was right-handed. Femur, protuberance on leg bone, result of regular horseback riding. arm bones, robust. Cosimo was a weightlifter. Spine, 3 fused vertebrae, suffered from DISH, diffused idiopathic skeletal hyperostosis, difficulty bending in old age. Well, dead men can tell tales, and Cosimo's skeleton tells us a lot. He was strong, athletic, full of energy, but in the end, racked with pain. But he was a man of intellect as well. Remember, Cosimo was one of the Medici greats. Let me show you just how great.
Just next door to the chapel, the Medici created something that put them apart from all other rulers of Europe. These stairs, the facade, all designed by Michelangelo. And they lead to something very special. It's a library. Incredible, isn't it? And Cosimo opened it up to the public.
All the details, the bookshelves, the benches, the height of the reading table, were designed by Michelangelo.
Let me show you how it worked. Books were arranged according to categories. Here's the heading, Latin texts, and here are the books. It's a card catalog. You'd find your spot, you'd sit down, and take your book. See this chain? The books and manuscripts in this library were precious.
This isn't a printed book, it's a manuscript. And at the bottom of the first page is the crest of the family that commissioned it, the Medici. Cosimo was a fanatic collector, and books were his passion, especially ancient books. He was searching for the wisdom of the past.
In this library, ideas that changed the world were studied and launched. This may have been the single greatest contribution of the Medici, and Cosimo was in the middle of it all.
Cosimo's children continued to support the arts and sciences. When Cosimo's grandson needed a tutor, the Medici hired the best, Galileo, the Galileo. Galileo is famous for his Leaning Tower of Pisa experiment. Historians are still debating whether he actually dropped the balls from the tower, but he did explain to the world that in a vacuum, heavy and light objects fall at the same rate. 400 years later, the experiment was performed on the moon.
Well, in my left hand I have a feather, in my right hand a hammer. And I'll drop the two of them here and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time. How about that? That Mr. Galileo was correct.
But Galileo lived in changing times, when science and religion seemed opposed, and if you were on the wrong side, science, you could be burned at the stake. This is the world Galileo blew away, the universal machine. It's a model that shows the Earth at the center of the universe. That's what people believed for thousands of years before Galileo. Galileo taught that the sun was at the center of the universe. And because this was against the teachings of the Church, he was summoned to Rome by the Inquisition. His life was spared, probably because of his Medici connection. But all good things must come to an end. And John Gastoni, the last Medici, marks the end of our powerful family. His last official act was to rebury Galileo in the Church of Santa Croce more than a century after his death. This is where Michelangelo lies. And now, thanks to John Gastoni, so does Galileo. But not all of Galileo is in his tomb. This is his finger. When John Gastoni reburied Galileo, they took a souvenir, his finger, and placed it in the Science Museum. John Gastoni died in 1737, and his grave is the last one we will exhume this season. John Gastoni's tomb is different from the others. It's in another part of the crypt. Gastoni was buried with 2 12-inch gold medals and a jewel-encrusted crown and scepter. And this tomb should be undisturbed. Everyone is very excited. The reporters have gold fever. They're hoping for another Tutankhamun. We know we will have to deal with the effects of the 1966 flood. But still, it could be fabulous.
It's dry. You know, it's dry. We've got a chance that it's in good condition. I think there's a chance it's in good condition. It's dry. It's not as wet as the other one. This looks like flood stuff, but I think we're okay.
We think the excavation should be the same as the other tombs. Pick up the marble flooring, lift a huge stone slab or two, and we'll have our Medici. Boy, were we wrong. And this time, it's a real problem. No stone slab, just solid concrete and stone. And there's no sign of any tomb.
So this is different. This is very different.
I'm not sure what we have, so we drill a core sample.
The stone is very hard. You can't just go straight through it. These guys, they're a little bit excited. I'm trying to slow them down. It's hard. Yeah, they want to go down. You can't do it. You can't do it.
We just might be standing on top of a huge underground tomb. This is really different, and I'm not sure exactly where John Gastoni is. We lift more paving stones, but still the same concrete and stone. Is this an extra layer to protect the crown and gold medals? The early records don't help us. Lots of references to gold, but no details of the burial. There's one last chance. There's a curious circular paving stone. You know how in the last Indiana Jones film, an X on the floor marked the spot? Maybe a circle marks John Gastoni's spot.
We can lift this, that's okay. We lift this, we look. But if the stones are the same as that, it's over. But we can see, and then we put it back, and that's it. So let's try one last thing.
This is our make or break point. Excavating in the Medici crypt has been incredible, but so far, all the graves our international team exhumed have been disturbed.
There's more mud at the
But
bottom.
now we're after the big one, the intact tomb of the last Medici, John Gastoni. But so far, we've been unable to find him. This is our last chance to find Gastoni. But I think I've got him. There's something different, a layer of clean sand.
It has a ring, it'll come up. But what's underneath it is, yeah. Wait.
And under the sand is a stone plug.
I need everybody back, please.
Here we go. Stairs.
Take your camera out. Get it out. Get it out. I need a light. I need a light down here.
And they lead to a huge underground crypt. I think I can see John Gastoni's coffin. I know he was buried in a lead coffin, and I can see a lead one inside a badly damaged wood coffin.
Okay.
But I can't go in yet. The Italians are worried about microbes in the tomb, so I put on a biohazard suit.
Yes, see.
I'm more worried about the structural strength of the stairs.
It seems fine. Just a second. Still good. Need a little light. Light. Yes, better. Good. This is good. Okay, just a second. More light down here. More light. Okay. Now, the stairs are fine. What I can see, there are coffins all around. Bones are on the floor. We'll have to go very slowly to reconstruct what happened. And I think we'll probably even need a wood conservator to work on the coffins. So the tomb has been robbed. It's not in the condition we hoped, but I think it'll be interesting. There's plenty of human remains that we can work with. In terms of artifacts, I don't think we'll have very much because they took it.
I wonder if the medals which were buried together with
Gone, for
Where?
sure. I don't know. Maybe melted down. The thieves aren't going to sell it as art because they'll know it's stolen. I think it's melted down.
Too simple.
Sure.
So the crypt was robbed. But when? Well, it had to be before 1966, the year of the flood. The entire tomb, stairs, coffins, are covered with undisturbed mud. My bet is it's like in ancient Egypt. The workers who did the burial